Hello everyone. In today's video, we're going to be kind of putting together everything we've done so far to build a very simple dice program that basically can evaluate dice in their traditional sort of D format. For example, 2d6, roll two six-sided dice. We could say 1d20 plus 3 equals roll one 20-sided dice, and add 3. All right, so there's a lot of things we're going to have to unpack here. We're going to kind of work our way through each one of the different components individually, and then kind of go at it, so to speak. So what I want to do is I want to build this entire thing as a function. So it is a reusable function, so I can use it over and over. And my function is simply going to return the value, kind of the sum when it's done. And of course, since we're going to be dealing with random things, so we're going to have to grab ourselves the random library here, keep it nice and simple, and then we're just going to kind of go at it. So I'm going to name my function roll. And there's going to be a couple different things we need to do in this function. We can, of course, pass the number of sides and the modifier and kind of do it that way. But we're actually going to parse the roll into smaller pieces. This makes it a little bit easier on the user if they're familiar with that format. It also kind of, again, makes things a little bit more abstract for us. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to parse the dice string. Oh boy. Now remember, our dice strings can come in so many different ways. They could be like you saw up above. It could be a 2d6. It could be a 1d20 plus 3. There's so many different ways the user could throw things at us. So we're going to have to figure out a way to break this string into 3 different pieces. So the 3 different pieces are going to be a number of dice. We're then going to need the size of dice. Dice number, dice size, and modifier. We're going to have to figure out how to get each one of these things out of here one at a time. So now the nice thing is we have only very, very few possible modifiers. It could be plus 0, minus 0. Again, we only have to worry about plus or minus. And there's always going to be a D here. So that makes our life a little bit simpler. So what I'm going to do is break it down one step at a time. So first things first, let's take that dice string and let's get rid of anything that shouldn't be there. So I'm going to do dice string.lower. .strip, and that's going to get rid of any nastiness. So let's go ahead and print dice string. Again, we're going to do one step at a time. So let's go ahead and ask the user for this one. Dice equals input prompt. I guess I'm going to call it like this. Prompt colon, and I'm going to say roll dice. Actually, eventually we're going to return it. But so I'll go ahead and do this. Print roll dice. Now, if I run this real quickly here, it's going to say prompts, and I can say 5D7, enter. And you'll notice it automatically lowercased it and also eliminated all the nastiness that's in it. Now, very, very clever folk would probably sit in here and say if it contains a letter that is not D, to go ahead and basically bounce it off of us. But we're going to assume they know how to type that correctly. We could do it with a try-catch and everything. So we know that that worked. It took the input, and it actually imported nice fine. So we have to split this into different components. And just to make it more complicated for us, let's make 1d6 plus 3, 33. Oh, that's an interesting dice roll. What the heck is with that modifier? So we know that we need to split it from the letter D, and we need to split it from the plus or the minus or nothing, depending on what shows up in our program. How are we going to do this? Well, getting the first half is pretty easy because we know we can run the split function and grab this stuff. So let's do that first. So I'm going to call it first half equals. I'll go ahead and get rid of this for a second. We don't need that one. Again, we're just confirming as we develop. First half is going to equal dice string dot split, and we're going to go ahead and get it at the letter D. So now if I print this, so let's make sure it works. Print first half. Whoa. Remember this returns a list. So if we imagine this being split into a list, this is going to be the first half of the list. This is going to be the second half of the list. So if we want just this 0 here, item 0, I should say, the first item, we're going to go ahead and add the index as well. So now if we print first half, let's go ahead and give that a run. I will say 6D7 and press enter. You'll notice it correctly identified this lovely little 6 here. It actually snapped that off quite nicely. So the first half actually is pretty good to go. So I now can do something nice and simple. I could do something like, let's see here. I could say number, let's say dice number we said. Dice number equals, actually basically you can just steal this. We can be lazier than that. Just like that. So we know our number of dice is going to be the element that is in front of my D here on my list. And of course, it's going to be item 0, which is the second half. So now let's go ahead and break this into these. Uh-oh. Don't forget we're dealing with numbers here. So let's go ahead and turn that into an integer while we're at it too. Okay, so let's grab the second half now and see if we can parse this correctly. So I want to take my dice string and I want to go ahead and split it again. And I want to go ahead and get the second half of it, which is going to be element 1. Now, if I print my second half here, we'll go to print second half and run that. You will notice if I do a 1d6 plus 5 and press enter, it gets me 6 plus 5, which is correct because basically it snapped off this business here and gave me just this part of the string. Okay, so that's working pretty well. So how do we know whether this is a plus or minus? Uh-oh. Also, what happens if something like this happens? We'll do a 30 or a d66 plus 33. Why not? Uh-oh, this is not a consistent spot, which means we're going to have to split the string again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of that. And I'm simply going to create a simple if statement here. If dice, actually we'll keep it easy. If plus in dice, we know if there's a plus in my dice that we're going to be looking for that plus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that as a way to separate my second half into two different pieces. My first one is going to be dice size. Dice size is going to be the first half of the second half. So that starts to get a little mathematically confusing. So I'm simply going to say second half of item 0. Simple as that. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab my dice modifier here. What do we call it? Modifier? Oh, we should call it dice modifier. We should be more professional here. Second half of 1. Now, the interesting thing is we never split second half. We did the original piece, but all we've done here is we've grabbed it off the first one. So let's go ahead and split that second half real quickly here. Second half equals second half dot split. Remember, we're splitting it at the plus because we know that there's a plus in it. So my dice size now would be the second half, the first part of it, first half of the second half. And of course, my dice modifier would be the second half of that one. Now, there's one thing we have to be very, very cautious of in the fact that we notice that there's a positive sign here. It's going to give us issues later. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to convert this into an integer. I'm going to go ahead and convert this into an integer. Let's go ahead and give that a quick test here. So print, let's see if we got everything here. Dice number, comma. We want to get dice size, and of course we want dice modifier, underscore modifier. All right, let's see what happens when we run it. Go ahead and run it real fast. 1d6 plus 5. I press enter. You'll notice it snapped the 1 off perfectly, it snapped the 6 off perfectly, it snapped the 5 off perfectly. Everybody do some thumbs up there. Fantastic. Let's break it. 1d6 minus 1. Uh-oh. It did not like that. That's a common problem, and we'll solve that in a minute. I'm not too worried about it. All right, so let's go ahead and create our elif statement here. Elif minus in dice, colon. So my second half, we're going to leave this code the same. Yeah, I feel like I'm copy-pasting a little bit, but too bad. So my dice size, it's going to be the same logic here. I'm just going to come in here like this. And I'm going to come down here, and we'll go ahead and grab this and toss that in here. However, times minus 1. Also, we're going to have to come in here and change my split to also be a minus 1. I'll go ahead and give myself a little bit of room here. All right, let's do an idiot check here. So if I split it by plus, the size, yep, second half would be modifier. I got to be a little careful. And modifier. All right, so we do minus, and we're going to make that a -1 here because remember, we're going to lose this minus when we do the processing. Let's try it again. 1d6 plus 1 looks good to me. Let's run it again. 1d6 minus 1, run it again. Success. Awesome. Of course, the last possibility we need to take into account either. We don't care about second half. Basically, all we have to do there is just grab the second half because the second half is going to be our item there. So dice size equals int second half. That's it. Then dice modifier, of course, is going to be 0. We know it's going to be 0 because of the fact that, well, we have nothing. We could do plus 0 if you want to be goofy. So if I run this again, 1d6, enter, you'll notice it's going to explode. And the reason it's going to explode here is because, as you probably noticed, I spelled modifier wrong. I fixed that real quick, though. So that's looking pretty good here. So I can see that looks good. It's perfectly parsing my prompt here. Haha. So if I do 2d6 plus 5 and press enter, you'll notice it does that one correctly. If I do a 20d33 plus 100 and press enter, you'll notice it's parsing perfectly. It's actually doing exactly what we want. So if we want to be nice and pros here, we are actually, well, let's go real hard here. Let's go hard. Let's go. You want to roll dice number. Whoa. Come on, Squiggly, get to it. You want to roll, actually, oh, you know what we could do here? I'm not going to do it. Of a, oh, we could totally use the format with a modifier of, go ahead and toss a dice modifier on there, put a squiggly, Control S, go ahead and press the little run key, 1d6 plus, whoa, 1d6. You want to roll one of an You want to, I guess I'm just going to do this. I don't know how I feel about the way that's actually done. +3. You want to roll 1 6, so I guess 6-sided dice. I like that. Let's run that one more time. 1d6 +3, enter. You want to roll one 6-sided dice with a modifier of 3. I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Okay, now we have to actually do the rolling. This is the fun part. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do the math. So we're going to use a for loop for this. And I'm simply going to say for x in range. Let's see, dice number. Yeah, dice number. Because this is going to control how many dice we're actually going to roll here. But before we do that, we're going to have to keep track of our sum here. Because each time we go around in our loop, we're going to have to add whatever the value of our roll is into that sum. So let's go ahead and do the roll here. Roll is pretty easy. It's simply going to be random random. Let's be professionals. 1 comma, what do we say? Dice size. That checks out. And then we're simply going to sum plus equals roll. Now, many of you probably say, why don't you just go like this and pop that in there like that? This could be more explicit, but you're not wrong, because theoretically it's less code and theoretically less memory. It's a clarity thing. But as you can see here, we're basically going to take the sum and we're going to add each time we go around what we roll here, in which case 1 is going to be the minimum value of any dice. Dice size is going to be the maximum value of the dice. Now what we have to do here is we have to take the sum and we have to add on the dice modifier. That's important. Oh, dice modifier. Nice. If we forget to do that, of course, we're not going to be taking that into account. So all we have to do, return sum. Nice. Let's see if it works. Run. 1d6 plus 1. You want to run 6-sided dice with modifier of 1. We get a 3. Okay, that works pretty good. Let's create an absurd situation. I want a 1d1 plus 1. Makes sense, 2, because a 1d1 can only come up as a 1. 1 plus 1 is going to equal 2. That makes perfect sense. As a matter of fact, if we want to play with that example a little more, we could do 1d1 minus 1, and that's going to get us a 0, of course. Now, if we were doing like D&D or something like that, we'd probably have something like this. 1d20 plus 3, that's a pretty good, kind of introductory skill level here. That's pretty good. It's like, it's me a 17. Nice. We could run that one again. We could do this. We could say, let's say we wanted to do a 1d20. We'll do something, the charisma roll for the barbarian, kind of a thing like that. Ooh, the absolute worst possible situation. You can see that we get there. So as you can see, this is a pretty good example of almost everything we have done so far. We've done some string parsing here, where we've broken into tiny pieces. Many people, of course, who are a little more experienced will say, we've got some copy pasting going on. You should probably have not done it that way. Yeah, there's simpler ways to do this, but this is also very explicit and very easy to follow as far as things goes. There's a couple other little things we walked into trap-wise. Of course, we have ints here. The other thing, of course, is we never did any checking to make sure the user didn't goof up. So, for example, if I say 1e5, it's not going to like me very much because 1e5 is impossible. We'd have to actually come in here and we'd have to sneak a try. If we wanted to be a little pro here, what we could do is we could actually go like this. We could try, and then we could accept, and then we could print user error, stop, don't be so, actually, let's be professional. Let's be professional. Let's say F, we'll say dice, I'll put in squiggles, dice is not a valid dice thing. It's not a valid dice. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to grab my prompt. I'm going to chuck it up here real quickly here. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my roll and I'm going to chuck it in here. Haha. So now what we're doing is we're saying input the dice. It's going to try. If it triggers an error, it's going to tell me I goofed. So if I run it again and say 1d6, 56 plus 4, not an issue. If I run it again and I say 1e7 plus, I did, too automatic. 1e6, press enter. You'll notice 1e6 is not a valid dice. Enjoy.